how can we tell, like, what are the top 3 things that give us a clue that we need to get our exterior paint done on our home?
So the biggest thing is really the oxidation. So do you want to explain what oxidation is?
Well, I'd say the first 3 things are time is the easiest one. If it's been 10 years, it's time.
Yeah.
Some paint wears a little better than other paint. But if it's been 10 years, it's a no-brainer. There's no getting around it. The first thing we look for when we're painting a house is customers that say, why are you rubbing our house down and touching it? Because when it's ready to paint, it'll have a chalky residue on it that
I see.
a lot of people think will come off with power washing.
What's up, MOMnation? How's it going, everybody? And happy Live and Learn Thursday. It's been a couple of minutes, days, weeks, since I have done a Live and Learn, and I'm super excited today because I have 2 of my most favorite people, Ahwatukee-based owners of Sharper Edge Painting LLC, Mike and Krysten. Woo! Welcome, guys. How's it going out there?
Good. We're loving it. It's warming up out here for sure.
Where are we today?
We are in Ahwatukee. We're up in the foothills.
Oh, right on. So you're right close to home.
Yes, we're at a customer's house that we're getting ready to paint soon. And luckily he's been a longtime friend of Mike, so he didn't have a problem with us using his wall to show you guys some of the cues on when to paint.
Yeah. I'm really excited to dive into this topic because I've had the conversation a bunch, with our clients and just with homeowners about this. Like, how do we know when it's time to get the exterior done on our home? Like, we kind of know when it's time to get the interior done. That's a little bit easier. But as far as the exterior, do we just wait for the HOA to complain? What if we don't have an HOA? So I have had this conversation before, so I'm so glad to have you guys on today.
Absolutely. Yeah, people don't really know the signs to watch for. So it's either the HOA telling them or they have like an obvious stucco repair that needs to be done. And that's their cue to paint, when really there's a lot of signs that you can find first.
Yeah. And I can't wait to dive into it. Before we do, though, real quick, Krysten, I know you've been a longtime member of MOMnation. We love having you, obviously. And you guys have been friends of ours for a long time. And I was hoping to hear that you might be going on the Moms Only cruise in August. Are you coming with?
Oh, I wish, but no, we've got a ton of stuff planned for this summer and just trying to get away. You know how it is. It's just not that easy.
No, I totally do. Well, for those of you who maybe you don't know about the cruise, or maybe you've been on the fence thinking about it, I am totally going. Ashley Schultz is totally going. And I just want to do a quick shout out to Sarah Pitcher. Travel with Sarah Michelle is the business. We love her, don't we, Krysten? Krysten knows her too.
Yes, she is so sweet. I don't know how we do it without her.
I
She is
agree.
so helpful with everything.
Have you booked a trip with her?
She's helped me with our Disney trip. So we didn't book a nice excursion or anything, but she helped me finalize all of those little things that really make a Disney trip not as stressful as it has to be. I went 1 year without using Sarah and it was sheer chaos. And then this last trip we did, it was just oh, we can relax in Disneyland. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew? Parent hack. Sarah is the ultimate parent hack when you are wanting to go on vacation, especially to Disney. She loves Disney. So I'm glad that you brought that up because she is an absolute Disney guru and she can help you guys book anything and everything local, USA, local, international, anywhere around the world. Anything that needs a ticket, she's your girl. So check her out.
What I was saying is she's Disney certified. So she actually knows all of the insider tricks to Disney as opposed to everything we see when you go online and you're trying to book. She's actually certified through them. So she knows all of those hidden gems and the tricks and the secrets, and she knows a lot about it. It's really awesome.
She sure does. I feel so lucky to have friends like her and friends like you that know all of the ins and outs and the tricks and the tips of your industry. So let's hop right into it, guys. How can we tell, what are the top 3 things that that give us a clue that we need to get our exterior paint done on our home?
So the biggest thing is really the oxidation. Like, so do you want to explain what oxidation is?
Well, I'd say the first three things are time is the easiest one. If it's been 10 years, it's time.
Yeah.
Some paint wears a little better than other paint. But if it's been 10 years, it's a no-brainer. There's no getting around it. The first thing we look for when we're painting a house is customers that say, why are you rubbing our house down and touching it? Because when it's ready to paint, it'll have a chalky residue on it that
I see.
a lot of people think will come off with power washing. After you power wash, that chalky residue is still there. So you need to apply a chalk binding primer before you paint so you get good adhesion with new paint. And this is a step you can eliminate if you paint before you wait too long. The paint is the one thing on your exterior protecting everything on the inside.
Right.
If stucco was never painted, it would just fall off in a couple of years' time. So that the paint protects the stucco. But once it starts to oxidize and kind of, lose all its properties, the stucco is now exposed directly to the sun and it'll start to crumble. So you can start to snowball with extra costs if you wait too long. If you were to paint maybe in year 5 or 6, you could save, countless money depending how long you wait. But you can definitely save on not having to put the primer on there initially, and probably save on a lot of stucco repairs, because the stucco repairs really start once the paint on the outside has started to oxidize.
Love that. And just so our listeners know, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So, we have birds, there's damage from weather, hail, things like that. And so it'll start to make like holes in the stucco, right? Is that another indication that, hey, you're starting to get, maybe you don't know the year that it was last done. Is that another indication that, hey, it's probably time to get those things patched and maybe get another coat of paint on there? And do you guys patch stucco before you paint?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that's a sign to paint, because that is just all the forces of nature coming at you. But it is something that you want to pay attention to, because you do want to get those stucco patches taken care of so you're not having water seep in through those holes and starting leaks in the house, or water running down the outside and just completely destroying your stucco work and your paint.
Hey,
we're back.
Sorry, my phone overheated.
No, totally understandable. I just cracked a bunch of jokes while you were gone, so it's totally fine. Like, everyone's totally entertained. It's great.
I love it.
So back to what we were saying, just because the birds have decided to make holes and the weather has decided to make holes, that might not necessarily be a clue. But Krysten was saying it is important to get those things handled, because bugs could come in, water could come in, that kind of thing. Am I right?
Yep. At that point, you're letting the elements into your home. And at that point, the walls are going to get worse, and you'll see some people will notice they'll have like bubbling around their windows. I don't know why I'm pointing at the windows if you can see it. But some people will start to get like bubbling around the windows. You'll get those big cracks underneath your windows. And a lot of that has to do with water coming in at a crack at some point and then running down the inside of that paint. So then if you don't get that addressed soon enough, then we're going to have to go in and cut out a huge square of your stucco and then re-stucco all of that. So then you're going to end up spending a lot more money than you would have if you'd initially got it fixed when it first happened.
Yeah, totally agree. And do you guys do stucco repair?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's something you don't necessarily, I mean, obviously when you did the repair, you paint over the repair though, right?
Yeah, so do you want to scoot the chairs a little closer? Sorry. We will do the repairs, and if it's something that's in a spot where it's easy to just match the paint and put it on there without you noticing it. But if your house has been pretty faded by the sun or anything like that, it's just best to paint that whole wall. Yeah. So that way you don't see the inconsistencies in the paint. We can take like a piece of the peeled paint off and try and get that matched to the best of like their abilities, but it's never 100% match unless you just paint the whole area.
Right, right. That makes sense. So you guys know I show a lot of houses. So I see a lot of houses on a day, or a daily, weekly, whatever basis. And I often see the back patio ceiling kind of messed up. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So we call those tape lines. The house here has a couple of them on their back patio also. I feel like we pretty much see it in every house here in Ahwatukee for sure.
Yeah.
It's the drywall separating. So you'll notice like some nail pops here and there, or you'll start to see the tape seam. And then usually by the time you've asked us to come out, that tape's completely broken. So it's completely separated. And we go in and we completely push everything up, nail it back up, retexture it, and then paint the whole area. So that way, obviously, it's all gone. Do you have any more to add to those steps?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that happens just from how hot those patio roofs get. There's no insulation between the roof, the top of the roof, and the drywall underneath. So it gets so hot during the day, but then once the shade comes, it cools down really quickly, and it causes that ceiling to kind of expand and contract, which causes those areas to peel. It's something that we see pretty much on every job. But yeah, there's multiple sheets of drywall on a back patio, and those areas that you see start to crack is where two pieces meet, but they've expanded and contracted, and now they've separated a little bit, so they need to be re-screwed back into place and just taped and textured.
And when you start seeing those, that could actually be a sign that your house probably needs to be painted too. It's not a for sure sign, but usually if it hasn't been repaired, in 6, 8, 10 years, your house probably hasn't been painted in that 6, 8 to 10 years too. So even if you don't know the exact time your last house was painted, if you're starting to see those defects, then it's a pretty good idea that it hasn't been painted in quite a while, or somebody skipped a step somewhere along the road.
Yeah, definitely a good clue. Is that cosmetic, or is that something once you start to see that paint peeling and that all kind of happening, is that something that really should be addressed as soon as possible?
Peeling paint on the ceiling, like a back patio ceiling, there's nothing structurally, no issues with it. You could let it all peel off and it's not going to really affect your house. If it's peeling on the stucco and it really starts to peel badly, that's when you could start to really cause some extra work to be needed to be done. Mm-hmm. The back patio is its own sole thing. So whether you let it all peel off or you fix it, nip it in the butt before it gets too bad. So that I guess that's separate and not a huge thing. But if you let peeling go for a long time on your stucco, it can really cause some serious issues with trying to repaint it.
Mm-hmm. And one thing to watch for the patio ceiling is if you get like dark circles. I know what those watermarks look like. Right. But if you get the dark circles, then you see like that's where your patio is peeling, and it's not necessarily where the drywall is separating. That means that you have a leak coming through, and you actually have to get a roofer out to fix what's going on the top. Because if we just fix what's going on underneath and you don't get the actual issue repaired, then it's just going to happen again. Yeah. So there is a difference in the two. You'll see some peeling, and when it's got like the color changes in the peeling, that's from a leak. But if you're seeing like just straight lines peeling, that's the drywall separating.
Good point. Water is like your house's worst enemy, yes?
Absolutely.
Definitely paint's worst enemy.
Yes.
And so can we talk about that a little bit? I know that you mentioned in the first segment, in the first kind of, the beginning of the show, how if the water gets underneath that and it starts to bubble, like you mentioned, Krysten, it could be a total issue. But is there anything else that we need to be aware of as homeowners in terms of water and our paint?
Well, you just don't want water getting behind paint. Like planters and retaining walls are notorious for being watered behind the wall, and then the wall's not properly sealed from the inside, and then the water's trying to escape and evaporate to the front of the wall. Water behind that paint is the worst. the proper way to do it would be to trench it and seal the inside and then paint the outside. But a lot of people didn't do that. And with
Tell me, can you see the stucco on the bottom between these two flower bushes right here?
How it's kind of
You see
like
how
damaged.
it's all falling apart off the back of that wall?
Yeah.
That's the water moving through and then like deteriorating it. So if you don't dry lock both sides of the masonry, is that what it's called?
Mhm.
Yes. So if you don't dry lock both sides of there, you're only protecting one side. So say you're doing your due diligence as a neighbor and you're getting your whole perimeter wall dry locked. It's not really going to do much good. It will like give you a little more longevity, but it doesn't really do much good unless your neighbors are getting it dry locked also, because it's only protecting 1% of that brick. So the water's still going through 99%. It's going to have a harder time bubbling up over here, but eventually it still will.
Mm-hmm.
You see it a lot with planters, pony walls, your neighbors conjoined perimeter walls where their ground's up a little bit higher than yours.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see exactly where their ground level is due to the damage along your perimeter wall.
And
Yeah,
what we
makes
tell a
sense.
lot of people is that, like, this is 8-10 years worth of damage. They ask how long it's going to last, and you hope, if not, a lot of times your neighbors are going to work with you, but we hope to at least get 5 years of peel-free paint on our side, so that that's what I try to encourage. That it's obviously going to look a lot better than it has or than it does, and this is 10 years worth of damage. So you're hoping to get 5 to 6 before you start seeing any real damage happening again. And if you maintenance it, scrape the loose stuff and touch it up over time, it'll last much longer. But if you just leave it and don't touch it, it can snowball quicker.
Heck yeah. Deferred maintenance, if you ask me, is the worst enemy on our houses in terms of resale. And, it's just so important to maintain.
And the foundation of the house is become a real critical point for customers on what their expectations are for the painting their home. Most of them don't care about anything between in the middle. They care about the foundation and they care about the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason the foundation is such an issue is because what little moisture is in the ground that we have here, it tries to come up, it soaks into that concrete because it's porous, and then it wants to escape and evaporate right there at the foundation. So it's usually the first thing to start peeling, but it's one of the first thing we do is we'll remove the rocks from the foundation, scrape it by hand, and then apply a primer on there that's called dry lock that's meant to prevent water seepage, basically.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Once again, that moisture is coming from below it, so it's not 100% fixed, but it's a lot better than just scraping it and painting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So last question from me, plants, bushes, trees. Do you see a lot, like Kristen's laughing because she knows where I'm going with this. So any inspector, which I do inspections like 500 times a day, right? Any inspector is going to say, pull that stuff 3 feet away from your foundation. Now, I know you guys see a lot of houses too. Do you see these things pulled 3 feet away from foundations?
Never. Everybody's got their shrubbery right up on the side of the house because it looks cute. It's aesthetically pleasing. And then we have to be the bad guy and come in and be like, hey, we need to get these trimmed at least 1.5 feet, 2 feet away so we can properly prep and paint this area. And it's a hard one because everybody falls in love with their shrubbery and their plants and their beautiful flowers. And I totally get it. But it's just something that not only is the water from this plant getting onto your house and destroying your paint and your stucco and your foundation, but then when we come in to paint, we also have to try and like move it without hurting your plant. So yeah, plants are always fun. The trees are always fun. Nobody wants to move their shrubbery or destroy it, which is completely understandable. I get that 100%, but just for the longevity of your home, it is definitely a better idea if you could move them a few feet from the wall.
Yeah, and Holly Parker with Creepy Crawly Pest Control will tell you it's like a super highway for bugs to get into your home too.
Yep, and then the water's causing the damage that makes it easy for them to build their roads right in.
So you heard it here, folks. I always say 3 feet away. That's what typically inspectors say in terms of the root itself. So that's where it's being watered, right? But yeah, I always hear like a foot to a foot and a half trimmed back as far as like the vegetation part of it is concerned. I do hear that a lot. So
You can also have an irrigation leak and not know it, and have a bunch of water running right by the base of your foundation as well, which can cause issues.
And since it's a slow leak, it never really gets to the surface for you to see it because it's being absorbed into that porous concrete of your foundation.
oh, that makes sense.
Very good point that you brought up.
Well, thank you. All right, guys. Anything else that you would like to add?
I would say the third biggest factor to know your house needs painted is if it's faded. If it's faded, it's time to paint.
If it's not the color it was when you picked out the color to paint your house, then yes, definitely. Fading is really easy to see. But if you are having a hard time trying to figure out if your house is painted, you can always look up on the HOA and see the color splotches so you can see what colors it's supposed to be. And then you'll also notice in some areas they'll be darker and lighter. The darker painted houses, you'll notice they'll start to kind of get like a coppery tan color in certain spots. And then with the lighter houses, you'll see like a darker kind of a tan color too, I guess, when they're starting to fade.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Lighter colors will last a lot longer in this weather than the darker colors.
Oh,
But
interesting.
we love painting all colors.
Yes, because the darker colors, they absorb the heat, as where the light whites, they reflect it. So it's the same with black and white cars. You know, if you have a black car, you're going to get a little warmer, you know. It's the same thing with your house. And then we actually had a customer bring up the other day that with painting his house white, it actually cut down on his AC bill because it wasn't constantly running as much as it was when he had the dark green colors on there. And I thought that was pretty neat. And then he was talking about the UV protective rays and stuff like that and why that's a thing. But I just learned that last week. So
yeah, there was a time where every home in Arizona was white. And then they started painting all these colors. And they were white because it was so hot here and the sun was so bad that it just kept the homes cooler.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes
Add that
sense.
splash of color on your door, on your garage door. Like keep those splashes of colors, people. I love the colors. But if you can do a light color on your body, then that's better longevity wise, a lot better.
Totally agree. White is beautiful.
Yes, I love your house.
Thank you. And thank you guys for the awesome job painting it. I still love looking at it every day. So thank you guys so much.
Welcome.
All right.
course.
So if one of our audience members, one of our listeners would like to get in touch with you and get an estimate, like what does that look like?
So you can message our Facebook page directly and I will respond usually within like 2 hours to get you scheduled. Our estimates are free, or you could give us a phone call at 480-430-3271 and we can get you scheduled that way. Like I said, all the estimates are free. We do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we try and keep ourselves pretty available for everyone. Easy peasy. We want to just make it as painless as possible. Nobody enjoys having to do construction on their house. So we want to be those painters that come in and you're like, huh, they made my life easy. Like that's us. That's who we are.
It's definitely you. I can attest. I can vouch for that for sure. And I know like all the neighbors around me can do the same thing because after you guys painted my house, I saw your trucks for a few months after that.
Yes, we've almost got like your whole block done. We're working on it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. Sharper Edge Painting LLC, guys. They are local, family owned. I did put the Facebook link in the show notes. So it's real quick. Just click on that and then get going with Krysten and Mike. If you guys would like to check out any of our previous shows, hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. That is our handle. You can scroll down and check out all of the shows that we have there. Specifically, this is a live and learn. And I don't know, we've probably done like 150 live and learns. So there's lots of binge-worthy content there for you. If you are more of the audio version, maybe you hike a lot, bike a lot, run a lot, and you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for MOMnation Talk Radio, and you can see us there. All right, guys, you have an awesome day. Go get some water, okay?
Okay,
Will
thanks
do.
for having us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.